Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. You see anything different, anything new? Yes. My friend and guest today, who is an amazing person, but also somebody who's stretching me to my limits, has convinced me to do video.
You look
So,
beautiful.
well, I don't know about that. No, don't start lying to me, girl.
I don't lie. I can't lie.
Boy, during this time in our world, I keep telling people, take this time and do something different, learn something different. And so I said that to my dear friend and guest today, and she took it to heart. And so we're trying video out. Yay, us.
Yay.
Oh boy. But the main reason I have my guest on today is because I always get asked, or people come to me and they talk about, hey, I want to write my story, but I can't for this reason, or this happened to me and I can't write that because of this reason. And, I specialize in helping people write nonfiction. Most of the nonfiction I write is people writing their real story, but I've also helped people take their story and learn to use it as a way to process their information and deal with their pains or their learning experiences and write that in a book that takes and a story that is impacted or is affected by or on other people. They can take their situation and build a world around it. So not only does it help them as an author, but it also helps the world. It changes the world because readers don't feel so alone, even if it is a fiction book. So that's one of the things I want to do today when we talk about book writing, is to kind of give an example by somebody who I think is fabulous about taking her story and then putting it in the book.
Thank you.
And series of books. I mean, she's written 20, how many books? 20 books?
13. That can be quite that much credit.
I'm building you up.
I'm
She's
working
written,
on it though. I'm working on a trilogy and I'm working on a standalone at the same time on top
there you
of all
go.
of
It
this
just
stuff.
feels like 20 books, but she's actually written and published 13 books.
Mhm.
And her motto, as you can kind of see behind her, is while the stories are fiction, the journey is real.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to take any more time because I want you to meet my friend and author and fabulous person, CJ Peterson.
Thank
She's
you.
a four-time award-winning published author, but she's done so much more than that. Before that, she was a catastrophic
Catastrophe
insurance,
adjuster.
insurance adjuster. Easy for you to say.
Catastrophe adjuster. Basically, when the insurance adjusters get overloaded, when a hurricane, tornado, whatever is hit, they call the catastrophe adjusters in for backup.
There
To
you
go to
go.
where the hardest hit areas, like that F5 that hit Joplin several years ago.
Oh, wow.
That's what they call us. Katrina, that's what they call us in for.
Wow. So she's also been an EMT. She was raised an Army brat. She's been a church youth leader. But what she's known for and loved for today is her book writing. And one of the things, don't let me get off of here without talking about how you wrote one of your series that actually is giving back and you're being a responsible, financially supportive citizen. And why don't we start there? Talk about
Okay.
that series and why you wrote it and what you're doing with it.
Okay. Well, first of all, my name is CJ Peterson. My website is cjpetersonwrites.com. That's cjpetersonwrites.com. I have 3 series out. All 3 series, a portion of the proceeds actually goes to charity. So the Grace Restored series, which is the one we're going to be talking about for the most part today, a portion of the proceeds goes to Hope's Door, which is a domestic violence shelter in Plano. You can find them at Hope's Door Inc. The Divine Legacy series and the Holy Flame trilogy, both of those, a portion goes to Airborne Angel Cadets of Texas who ship packages overseas to our military. Basically, I pick an element that's within each story and I find a charity that matches it. And that's a portion of the proceeds goes to that particular charity.
So that's cool. So you're taking parts of your real life,
Mm-hmm.
the nonfiction elements of your life, and you're building them in and weaving them through the characters and the worlds in a fictional way. So talk a little bit, why would you make that kind of choice? Why not just go pure nonfiction?
That's a tough one. Um, you asked the tough ones first. Basically, um, I'm a domestic violence survivor.
Mm.
I don't say victim because I am not a victim of anybody. I am a
Amen.
survivor. And as a survivor, I know what people are going through. My domestic violence ran the gamut. Every every way, twist, or form you could think of, I survived it. Having survived those is not something you want to, it's almost like you're ashamed to, but
Mm-hmm.
you know that story has got to come out. So what I did, for example, in Seasons of Change, which is the first book in the Grace Restored series, is I took elements of my story and put them on Katie. So Katie is surviving it. Katie McKenna is the main character. In doing that, I find it really ironic because some of the reviews I get say, well, no one ever really does it, or that doesn't really happen. And I'm like going, hello, that's actually one of the elements that's true.
No.
And so in doing it, it's kind of therapeutic as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I can change the outcome of the story if I choose to. I can make her strong where I was weak. I have
Wow.
gone through multiple years of counseling and have found my strength, and my strength is in writing and sharing a story. When my husband and I decided to publish the books, which, by the way, he is not one of those who abused me, straight and clear. He's a Prince Charming, literally.
Awesome.
But because of everything that I have survived, we took certain elements of it and I placed him in there. He's former retired Navy senior chief. He was a corpsman. So he's my military and my medical advisor.
Wow.
And he also does the read throughs with me. We read through aloud where I read it aloud and he reads along, make sure that what the words are in the pages matches what I'm saying. Basically, he's my editor.
Wow.
But he went through the first few years of our marriage. If he touched me, I jump.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you don't think about. I had gone through all those years of counseling. I was stronger. I was good. And I could face every day. But there were still certain things, and there's still certain things, but less now, more
Yeah.
so than ever, that still trigger me.
Mm-hmm.
Different thoughts will creep in, or I'll smell something like a scent or a song or something that triggers a memory that's not good.
Right.
But I take those and I give them to God, number one.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Christian fiction author, and that is at my core, regardless of anything that I write or anything that I do. And in doing so, God and I had it out. I mean, we did for 6 to 8 weeks. We just downright, I was mad. I was done and I was mad. And he and I went at it. And he took that time and he molded me and he shaped me and he cared for me. And he basically put me on his lap and said, "It's okay, daughter, I got it. We got this."
So did you write about that struggle in your books?
That particular time, no, that's mine and God's time. However, this different stuff that I faced
Mm-hmm.
is weaved within those books, yes.
Yeah,
Some of the
because
stories that I experienced are within those books.
yes. Well, I just think it's interesting because, my first book, Face Forward, Move Forward, is the story of my life growing up in a household with multiple generations of abusive alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote my struggle with God and duking it out. And it was interesting because basically Christians and non-Christians didn't like that part of the book. Christians didn't want to know that I had a crisis of faith, and non-Christians didn't believe that I resolved anything that way either. So that's why I asked you, because it is very, very personal and it really does push a variety of buttons. But hearing you talk about that, again, it's part of what we go through in our real lives that is really painful,
Mm-hmm.
but writing is such a powerful tool for processing all of these struggles and all of these life events and pains.
Yes, while I am a Christian, I'm a realistic Christian. The reason I say that is because my characters do have crises of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are spoiled brats that God takes them and goes, hello, get back here. Um, my characters trip and they fall flat on their face and they get mad and they get angry and they have conversations with God. It's not specifically the one that I had, but they do.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that. They're like, okay, this is actually real. A lot of Christian fiction publishing companies want everything in a pretty little box with a pretty little bow on it,
Mm-hmm.
that once you're saved, you never fall back. No, that does not how it works in real life. Things happen. At the end of, or actually, I think it's at the end of Army Rising in the Divine Legacy series, there is one sin that is called the unforgivable sin. I don't know if you know what that is or not. Um, and a pastor does it.
Mm. Yikes.
And, but there are different subjects in my books that I'm not afraid to touch. Being a
Yeah.
realistic Christian,
Yeah.
abortion, and the good portion of how it turns around. There was Casey Carter was raped, but she gave the daughter up for adoption. And another one, there was a 15-year-old girl that got pregnant. It was Katie's neighbor. And they talked the parents into raising the child. That child was a girl, and she ended up marrying down the road. She ended up marrying Katie and Nick's son. And
Wow.
so it shows like the different twists and turns of real life. And that's the beauty I like about the series, is because there is a 20-year jump. So
Oh.
the Holy Flame trilogy and the Grace Restored series are going out at the same time. And then the Divine Legacy series is 20 years later. So you can see those characters from those first two series and where they are now. And it's kind of gives it a unique perspective.
No, that absolutely. And I think that, I've always said, I'm not that special. The things that are happening to me or I've experienced, I think other people are experiencing too. And I almost felt like it was my responsibility to share that story in such a way that it would give hope to other people, or it would help people to see, yes, you can move forward. Your past does not have to define your future. And I guess also not to feel so alone.
I was going to say, and that's the key, is that you're not alone. You're not the only one that this has happened to. And, look what they did with it.
Right. So I just, I want to give people permission to not only process their own lives in their way, but also to tell their story, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, in such a way that it does give hope, healing, I don't know, that misery loves company, companionship kind of element, that is really, really powerful. But also the fiction gives us safety and distance.
Yep. And you can take your story and you can put it out there, but you can put it out there in a way that it's not specifically you.
Right.
I had a lady who read my books and she's just like, okay, this is me, this is me, this is me. Did you know me? I said, I wrote this and it was published long before I even knew who you were.
Wow. Yeah.
And you can take those elements of the parts that you're afraid of, or the parts that you really don't want to face, or the parts that ended really badly, and you can put a different spin on it. You can either make it not end badly, or you can make it end badly, but you can also go through and see how it's changed you and made you stronger.
That's really powerful, because we are in control of our destiny. And if we've learned something from what's happened in the past and we can write a different ending, we'll never go back there again.
Exactly.
Wow, that's that's amazing. I hope people are hearing this. So I want to come back and talk to you a little bit more about your books and how you support nonprofits, and a little bit about how you turn your books and your story into speaking to other people.
Okay.
Because books are not a one and done kind of thing. Books help people build businesses, and if that means you can go out and speak, then more power to you. So we're going to come back in just a minute, so you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be back with CJ Peterson in just a second. My guest today, CJ Peterson. And if you've been here in this conversation, you've heard that CJ's been through a lot of stuff. She has a life that has not always been easy, but she's processed that and used her story to write fictional stories to reach and help other people. So with that in mind, I also want to talk to me a little bit about why did you feel the need or the desire to, I think it's fabulous because I don't know anybody else who does this. All of your books are used, the sales of those books go back to support some of these nonprofits. And we touched on that a little bit in the first part of the program, but where did that idea come from, and why is it important for you to continue to use your book and your books, 13 books and those sales to give back to the community?
Well, here's the thing is charities do charity. They do heart work. When I write from the heart. And when I write from the heart, I want the messages of those to get out. Like I said, I went through and there were certain elements that allowed me to pick certain charities that I wanted to donate to when we were done. And the reason being is because I wanted to give them more exposure. But then there's also that cross-pollination where they also advertise the stories. And then the messages in those stories can reach a different set of people that I can't reach, or I may not be able to have the connections to reach. When my husband and I decided to publish the books, we said, even if each book helps just one person, then it's worth publishing the books. And it's
Absolutely.
helped a myriad of people, not to mention the fact that when they do purchase books, a portion does go to different charities. And those charities also benefit from it. I'm a little creative in it. What I do is I wait until the North Texas Giving Day, where they will double what you do. And I hold on to everything until then, and then I donate it then, and it gets doubled and it gets sent to the charities. Those charities are doing work for people. Hope's Door is doing amazing things for domestic violence survivors, and it is male and female.
Oh, wow.
It is both. And of course, the children, they're stopping that cycle where they can. So it doesn't get passed down to the next generation. It's not, because abuse is cyclical. It keeps going and going and going until somebody puts a stop to it.
Right.
You have to be strong enough to put a stop to it, not just for you, but for your children, regardless if you're male or female.
Absolutely. Well, and
as far as the Hopes or the Airborne Angel Cadets, they're sending packages to military members overseas, so they know they're not forgotten. People forget on their daily lives that there are people still fighting for our freedoms. They're trying to stop another 9/11 from coming. And they take stuff that you'd be surprised what they don't have. They asked for mattresses before and mattress pads.
oh, wow.
They live in metal boxes. And Airborne Angels sends them stuff to help them. And I wanted to give them exposure. And that's one of the main reasons I did it.
Yeah, because I didn't know about Airborne Angels. That's interesting.
They're actually out of Carrollton, Texas.
Really?
And Hope's Door is out of Plano.
So let's talk about, do you believe that writing your story through the characters in your book has helped you, give you some street cred so that you could get out into the world and speak and be real, be authentic who you are as the author of these stories?
In a manner of speaking. For example, I have a podcast. It's called The Journey is Real Podcast. I do the same thing with the podcast I do with my books, is I give different people exposure. I talk to people about their passions. Airborne Angels and Hope's Door are both among them. In doing so, again, it's sharing my heart. People know me through my writing, whether it's the books, whether it's the blog that I write, Journey to Fruitfulness, whether it's the podcast. And they get to know me, the author, through my heart. So in a manner of speaking, I'm speaking, but I'm speaking through the podcast, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So tell everybody, while we're on the podcast topic, the name of the podcast again and where they can find it.
The Journey is Real Podcast is what it's called. It's on 12 different platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, iTunes, Google Podcasts, the whole gamut. And then
YouTube, don't forget YouTube. That's why you're looking at me.
And the video portion is on YouTube. So there is the Journey is Real podcast is on YouTube because people prefer television. They prefer to watch. They prefer to see the animation. I'm Irish, so I'm going to have it.
Yeah, talk with my hand.
And then if you go to cjpetersonwrites.com, my website, cjpetersonwrites.com, for those watching on YouTube. Under Journey is Real podcast, you're going to see all of the current podcasts. You'll see all of the landing pages, really easy to find. You can kind of browse through the ones that are currently up there. There's a little paragraph and you can click on either the YouTube or the Anchor FM. Anchor FM will take you to wherever you want to go, or just literally if you have say you're a Spotify listener only, literally click on the landing page for Spotify and every single one of them are listed.
That's cool. So no excuses. You cannot not find CJ Peterson. You just can't.
No, I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere. You got kind of an exciting thing, because I cyber stalk you, because I'm not fortunate enough to have you in my life every day. So you got something kind of interesting going on right now with Chief and Sarge, and it's a whole different genre and different world for you. So as an author, using your imagination and using your stories, tell us about Chief and Sarge.
Well, I got to tell you, first of all, flipping a switch from young adult to children's is a whole different animal. And I kind of stumbled upon it. It was kind of an accidental. When we were in California, we adopted Sarge, which he's a little stuffed monkey, and you can see him pretty much everywhere. And we took him to the Grand Canyon on the way home. People absolutely loved him because he's a naughty little monkey. He's going to be getting into stuff. So when we went to Baton Rouge, we took him to the USS Kidd, and we took him to the Louisiana Rural Museum. And he got himself into lots of trouble. People were falling all over, loving this little guy. So in September, we adopted Chief. Chief is a little koala. He's Sarge's little bit bigger brother. And so he kind of was meant to keep Sarge in line, but sometimes Sarge ends up getting him into trouble too. Bad influence. He's kind of branching into it. They're kind of balancing each other out. But they're little guys. As their tagline is, "The mischief is strong with these two." They go on all sorts of adventures. And originally, after the original concept went out, was just real life adventures. So people can experience it with their kids. Initially, my idea with it is to show the different military bases. We've taken them to NAS Jax. We've taken them to Pensacola's NAS. Wow. And we're going to be eventually doing books on them. Again, the USS Kidd. So, military things, because military kids don't have a lot that's just for them. Right. But then I got to thinking, a lot of times kids don't have a lot that's just for them. And these two little guys are like little kids. We've adopted them into the Serenity Acres family. We live on Serenity Acres, and that's our apiary and all sorts of fun stuff. So it's all kind of intertwined. Mm-hmm. So after a little while, people are like, they're adorable, we love them. And people were getting a picture taken with them. If you go to the website, there's almost 100 pictures of people getting their pictures taken with Chief and Sarge. They just love them. It's great. We went on a cruise. I handed out every single card that I had because Trevor took them down the water slide and people loved them. I carried them around my backpack. The staff got their pictures taken with them. They thought they were adorable. We went to the military bases. Like I said, I have a picture of two soldiers standing with them, which was like my treasured picture of them. That's my most favorite with them. And so we've started turning them into children's book. So we're currently working on their first book called Cruising. And they're excited. So you've got this children's book that's coming up. If people want to find out when it's going to be released, how can they do that? Well, the beauty of the way that I do my emails every other week. I don't like to spam. I hate spam. I hate it, hate it, hate it. So I literally only do one every 2 weeks. You go to my website, sign up for my email. You can be the first to know when Serenity Acres has honey, and we make our honey raw. We literally just send it through a double sieve. Oh, you're into everything. Mm-hmm. So it's pure and raw as you can get it. That's what's kept me healthy through all of this cold and flu season, and also now. Yeah. They'll be the first to know when Chief and Sarge's book come out. They were the first to know that there was even going to be a book. They were the first ones to find out. They'll be the first to know when I relaunch my books. My current publisher, my sister and I run a publishing company. We're running the books through, so we're going to be relaunching all 13 books.
And so where do they get a hold of you or connect with you to get all of these updates?
Well, here's the beauty. If you sign up for the email list on cjpetersonwrites.com, it's on pretty much every page on there. You cannot go in there and not find a way to sign up for the email. It's almost at the top of every single page. When the email comes out, you literally just hit reply and it goes right into my inbox.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So the other thing, the reason I brought up Chief and Sarge is because they also play out part of your story and who you are to a different target market.
Mm-hmm.
So being creative and writing your passion in your way is something that should be encouraged,
mm-hmm.
whether it's writing adult romance or writing children's books.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want people to take away from this. However you can write your story or use your story to impact the world, that's what I think CJ and I would really encourage you to do.
Exactly. I grew up Army brat, which is why military kids are.
I'm Air Force brat.
Way to go.
Yay!
That's why military kids are close to my heart. That's the original intention of Chief and Sarge. That's actually why they're named Chief and Sarge. My husband's retired again, and retired Navy senior chief. He was a corpsman. So 20 of his 24 and a half years were with the Marines because the Marines don't have docks. And the Navy provides them as corpsmen. That's their medical. So Sarge represents the Marines and Chief represents the Navy. And they actually have a little backpack, and each backpack has a little insignia of Marines and a Navy on them.
You think of everything.
So yeah, they have little backpacks. They have little sunglasses. They've got little outfits. Top secret, which should be coming out by the time this comes out, is that we're going to start. My office is called the Treehouse, and we're going to start reading books. I'll be reading them to Chief and Sarge. The Treehouse is my office. It has games, it has toys, it has all sorts of fun stuff in here. But I originally had said I was going to do the Treehouse, and now is a good time as ever. So I'll be launching that soon too.
So if I want to one away from home, can I come there? Please?
You'd be surprised how many offers I get.
Are you ready I want to be adopted. So anyway, that's a whole different story.
The beauty of Chief and Sarge is that it also ties in with adoption.
That's cool. So, all right, I want to put you, as we get ready to wrap this up, I want to put you on the hot seat. You ready?
Go for it.
Okay. So, the name of my podcast is Mindset Meets Mastery. Mm-hmm. So I want to start with this question. Did you have a negative mindset when you started writing that almost or could have shut you down and kept you from becoming a published author of right now 13 books?
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt.
Can you share one?
First of all, putting your heart out there is terrifying anyway. People are brutal on reviews. I mean, they are like gut-wrenchingly brutal. You take a 300 to 400 page book and they will find the one thing that's wrong and pull it out, and they will give you a 2 or 3 star for it. That's number one. So you're putting your heart out there. Number two, you're putting a portion of your story out, and don't you dare tell me that's not terrifying, because it is. And so, like I tell people, parts of me are within each one of these characters, only I will never tell which ones they are. You're going to have to guess for your own.
Yeah.
But you're still going out there. That's your baby. That's your heart. You're still putting a portion of yourself out there, regardless if it's fiction or nonfiction.
Right. So you could have allowed all of those things or potential happenings, events to shut you down, and you would have never gotten to where you are now.
Correct.
What can you point to that was maybe one mindset that you changed, and how did you change it so you are who you are today?
That would be when I got out of the abusive situation. I went through Hope Store, which is why a portion of the proceeds goes to Hope Store. I'm extremely familiar with how Hope Store works because I went through them. During that time, like I said, the counseling and stuff, I became stronger. I became from the victim to the survivor. And that's what they do. And they make you stronger. So like I said before, it stops the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I explained to people, I said, abuse is like somebody coming up to your bookshelf, and your bookshelf has all of your life portions in it, and going, oh, that's an interesting one. Can I have that book? Sure, no problem. You could take a look at it, take it off, and they never bring it back. They come back and they take another one and another one and another one. And sometimes they replace it with their book to the point that you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And when I realized that, I dumped the shelf and I put my stories back on there.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I will give you 3 shots across the bow, and then I will cut you out, because I do not let people talk to me in any way, shape, or form that will hurt me again.
Yeah.
And I don't let them do it to my family either.
Absolutely. Well, that in and of itself can be a double-edged sword, but that's a whole nother podcast. Yeah, don't ask me how I know.
I give you 3 shots. You don't learn by the 3rd, then you're on your own.
Yeah, but there are some people out there, it's just like, duh, they just, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, that's
I'm one of those people that if I'm quiet, you better ask yourself what you did or why, because there's something going through my mind, and it's either a hurricane is brewing, potentially a tornado in F5, or there's a lot going in there and I'm extremely upset, and don't talk to me or touch me or it's going to end up ugly.
Yeah, yeah. So let's leave on a more positive note. what is
take those stories,
yeah.
take that stuff that you are terrified of doing. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to put it out there in the nonfiction way, that's fine. Put it out there in the fiction way. Change your story for the better. Change the dates, change the times, change the place, change the characters. You can kind of make them somewhat reminiscent.
Well, and I love what you said earlier about change the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Change
the outcome. I mean, there's so much power in that
mm-hmm.
you can write a different outcome. You can learn from that. And then you can live that too. So it's kind of a give and take. I just love that part. Change the outcome. So,
and I'm a pantser. There are 2 types of writers. There's a planner and a pantser. I'm a pantser.
Oh,
I literally sit down, pray, and write. I only have a list of characters. So for like 12 books, I literally had 3 pages of notes. That's it.
Wow.
And most of that was characters because they're fire departments. But in doing that, it gave me the freedom that those stories that are in my life can be woven in a lot easier, and it all flowed together.
So what is one little golden nugget, just one thing, if somebody's listening, well, and now watching, what is one little nugget of encouragement that you could give somebody who feels like they have something powerful to write, to share with the world? What is one little nugget that you can give them that we can leave them with?
There's a couple. One, you write what you know. When you write what you know, the person reading it will know. If you can make somebody cry and laugh in the same book, it's a success. And I totally go with that theory. You laugh, cry, you scream. People told me they wanted to throw the books across the room. Some people told me they have thrown my books across the room. And I'm like, yay! Do you know why? Because that means I hit them at their core. Mm-hmm. I could not have hit them at their core if I did not know what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. So because you know what you're talking about, you are the only one that can tell that story. And that story that you are afraid to tell may help somebody down the road to know that they're not alone. Like that lady who wrote my book said that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. You know what? I never even met her until that point, and that was way after the books were published. Mm-hmm. That woman knew, not only was she not alone, but I knew where she was coming from.
Exactly. So you said there's 2. Don't leave us hanging.
The other one is write what you know.
Write what you know, write what you know, write what you know, write what you know, write what you know.
And write from the heart, and write timeless.
Yeah, and just sit down and do it. Just do it.
Somebody needs to hear your story.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess, let me get your comment on this, that you can sit down to write your story and maybe have no intention of publishing it. Maybe you're doing it to help grow yourself, to help process your past, so that you can, see a different way, or whatever the outcome needs to be for you. Writing your story, fiction or nonfiction, is so powerful in processing. I don't know. What do you think?
I totally agree. When I originally wrote the stories, there are like 35 to 40 in the little folder that are written that haven't been published before, that I wrote just for me. And when I read one of them to my husband, he's like, no, people need to hear this story because this story will touch their heart. And so what I've done is, as I go through to rewrite and pull some of those 20, 35 books off, I actually just start with a character and I just let it flow. Sometimes it resembles those books, sometimes it doesn't. But here's the things. The original ones were written for me. These are written for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and that's really interesting, because my first book, Face Forward, Move Forward, which is my life, I wrote for me and for my children.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they could see, so when they say, well, that's just not fair, it's like, oh, let me tell you what's not fair, kind of thing. But to see that we had this legacy, and look at the things that I've done to create a new legacy, and help them to understand. I hope that they will understand how to live the new legacy, because it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard, and it
There's a
makes
book.
me do what?
I said, there's a book that I wrote, Survival of the Fittest, that will never see the light of day until I am under the ground. Because
Wow.
that is my story in the raw form.
Right. So,
And
but it's
so,
so empowering just to get
yeah.
it out of here, and even out of here,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't believe light can exist where there's dark. So when you dump all of that stuff on the page, you leave so much room for light, for hope and peace, and all of the possibilities that your life was created to fulfill. When you get that stuff on the page, it's just so powerful, and it's so freeing.
Yeah, I mean, people keep telling me, I have a story I need to write. I need you to write the story. No, I'm not the one that has to write it. If it's in your head and it's in your heart, then you're the one that needs to write it because you're the only one who can write it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. CJ, it's been great talking to you today. I think we could talk forever and ever, because we're both so passionate about helping and healing and writing. So you in the fiction world, me in the nonfiction
Mm-hmm.
world. But I think the point that I want people to take away is, whatever your story is, write it. And just maybe there's a way that you can use it to change the world for the better.
Yeah, I mean, like my tagline says, why the stories are fiction, the journey is real. Regardless if you write it fiction or nonfiction, the journey is real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, thank you very much. People can find you on YouTube, Facebook. What other social media are you on?
I am pretty much everywhere. My handle is at authoress_CJ. So that's at AUTHORESS_CJ. And yes, I had to think of how to spell that. Or you can find them all by going to cjpetersonwrites.com, CJPETERWRITES.com, all the way to the bottom, and just click on the little icon.
That's awesome. So listeners, thank you too for being here today. I've just been so shocked and amazed and humbled that I'm getting listeners from all over the world. So no matter where you are, I thank you for being here today and joining us in this conversation. But I
Thank you
want to
for
leave
having
you
me.
with, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. But I want to leave everybody with this thought, and I hope you will take it to heart. Don't let the world dictate your story. You get to choose how you live and how you write your story every single day.
Mm-hmm.
The power is yours. So what are you going to do next? Thank you. Bye, CJ. Bye, everybody.